Tribe to our new podcast this week is on home and car insurance. And my name is Tina Ginn. For anyone who is new here, I am an emergency preparedness coach, a best-selling author, a financial expert, and an app developer of Your Backup Plan app. And I'm located here in Vancouver, BC, Canada. You can expect product reviews, tutorials, workshops, tips and tricks, and interviews on our channel with real life people and their real life stories. So if you're new here, please go ahead and click on the subscribe button somewhere down here and tap on the bell if you would like to be notified of any upcoming videos. So this week, I am so excited to introduce Derek Whips from Central Agency Limited here in the Vancouver, BC area. And he is all raring to go to give us these tips and tricks for this week on getting house insurance cheaper, understanding your house insurance, and also a little bit about business and car insurance. So welcome, Derek. Thank you for coming on to our podcast.
Thanks, Tina. It's good to be here.
Oh, that's awesome. So Derek, what brought you into this kind of crazy field that you're in?
Well, yeah, that's a good story and long ones, but I'll cut to the chase on that. I actually about 20 years ago, I used to work in an assembly line, building truck parts. And when the economy kind of took a turn for the worse, I found myself on the unemployment line. I had a friend in insurance, and they said, the insurance industry has been good to them, and it actually stayed steady during the economic downturn, and I should think about it. So that's how I got into insurance.
Oh, that's cool. And what do you think each week that you really love about it?
Well, yeah, yesterday was yesterday I was really excited to start work. It was a great day for insurance for me. My day started off where I did a couple of certificates of insurance for a business. So I did a little bit of helping out a business obtain their jobs that they needed. Quoted a new home for a friend of mine, their insurance for her, and worked on a claim that was ongoing, and quoted out some additional water strata coverage. So I would say the variety of the day. You never know what's going to come in the door, and it interests me.
Yeah, because it's always changing.
And you never know what your day is gonna be like.
I think the worst part of insurance that I probably didn't like, if you could say it that way, I loved helping the people. It didn't matter with the claim, but I hated claims because you're having to deal with the insurance company of some sort, and sometimes that process just could be uncomfortable, or you're not getting, you're trying to help the people by doing it for them, and it's a difficult task at that.
Yeah, I can see that, and a lot of times there's some miscommunication between the insurance company and your client, the insured. Right. I think that's where a good broker is great to have, and one that will get involved and mitigate between the two, or negotiate between the two.
For that person, for them.
For the insured, the broker's client, yes.
So how does someone find a broker? Does everyone understand the differences between like going into maybe one company, and how does someone know? Should they just talk to someone and say, can you give me 3 different quotes, or what would you advise?
Right. So In the insurance industry and the sales part, there's essentially two types of insurance representatives for their clients. One's a broker, and a broker will have access to lots of different insurance companies, different markets. So they'll be able to shop around and make sure you're getting the best rate that they can obtain through the companies that they represent. An insurance agent is a representative that is employed by an insurance company to sell their product. So they don't have the opportunity to shop around to different insurance companies. They just will give you the rate of their of the company that they're an employee of.
Okay.
So that would be just flat out. You can just ask if the person is a broker or if they're an agent. And I think another way would be to say, can you get me various quotes? That would be a sign of if you're dealing with a broker or not.
Okay. And so that's a great tip for everyone to realize the difference there that they probably don't. As well as, do you have any other tips on getting quotes for people? Like, I'm going to include a worksheet in our blueprint program that will include all the things that you could bring to a broker about your house, so that you're not with the broker and saying, well, I don't know how to find that out. You'll be able to get it all done beforehand. So the things like your furnace and your chimney and what kind of fireplace you have and all of that kind of stuff.
To simplify and to help a broker out to get you the best rate. A lot of times realtors will have a MLS listing. It's always good to keep those because those have a lot of details of your home. Especially with square footages and types of rooms that you have. Updates, very important to remember and keep your updates. When was the roof last replaced? The furnace, has that been maintained? When was the last time that was maintained or replaced? Same with hot water tank. So keep electrical. Knowing when you did your updates is important for a broker.
And alarm systems and sprinklers and all that kind of stuff.
All that kind of stuff as well, yeah. But updates for sure. You want to know when you've did the maintenance on your home.
I think the only tip that I have for everybody is to know where your shutoff valves are.
Yeah, that's an important one for sure, especially the water.
But a lot of people don't know, and those are kind
especially in stratas. A lot of times sometimes they're not even in your unit, but sometimes when they are in your unit, they're in a very hidden spot. You might not even realize it. It could be a little shut off valve and a trap door that's kind of blended in your ceiling somewhere. Yeah, you need to know where those are for sure.
Okay. And what about, I know this is in British Columbia with the strata changes that happened. Do you feel that it's kind of nationwide? Like, has there been changes for stratas everywhere, or is it just here?
I think worldwide it's been the markets have been changing for insurance. Yeah, especially in BC, we're experiencing major changes.
So the biggest change I've noticed, and I'm only aware because I'm in this business, but I find a lot of people and realtors are pretty good at mentioning it to new owners, but I still find there's this lack of understanding between what the strata companies insure themselves for and the difference that you are on the hook for when you are in a strata. So people don't realize that they're on the hook for that difference.
Right. So with stratas, the strata corporation will insure the building. However, anything from anything with your unit to do with your unit, the interior of it, you're responsible for, not the strata corporation. So should a pipe burst in your wall, then you would be liable for the damages that caused. So the strata policy might cover for the water damages. However, it would be subject to the strata policy's deductible. And that's where a lot of the changes are coming in. Strata policy's deductible, for the most part, have been anywhere from 5,000 up to 25,000, and that's your standard coverage that most insurance companies will provide. However, lately we've been seeing those strata deductibles increase from 25. Today I had a client whose deductible increased to 50,000, but I've seen them as high as 100,000,
I've, yeah,
150,000.
I saw the 100,000 difference, which
Yeah,
is huge because people don't realize they have to cover that 100,000 difference, right?
well, they'd want to make sure that they have it insured because they could be on the hook for that. If there's a massive water damage claim that's caused by your unit and it affects a large portion of the building where $100,000+ of damage was occurred, you're going to be assessed the deductible,
Right.
and it's going to
So
be you. It's going to be solely you. So you're going to want to have that coverage.
on your own coverage, additional.
Yeah, you're going to want to make sure that you have that covered.
So it's a good thing to ask anyone listening to ensure that they look at their own strata coverage, see what strata covers them for, and then look at adding that additional portion onto their policy up for.
I think the best way to do it is get a hold of your strata policy and send it to your broker or your agent, whoever you're dealing with. Send it to that person and ask them if there should be any changes to your policy, because they'll be able to look through it and go, okay, I see what your water damage deductible is with your strata policy. After looking at your policy, you have that covered, or there might be a shortfall. Yeah, don't. I would recommend you have a broker or a professional give you that advice.
Okay. But
Yeah.
just to be aware, people need to be aware
Mm-hmm.
that there is that difference. Because I was speaking to someone, a realtor, the other day, and the people that had bought this new strata place didn't realize that they had to cover that difference. And they didn't understand why. So, to make a summary of what we're talking about for strata, is that you own your own section, whatever that looks like, if it's a condominium, a townhouse, apartment,
That
a
unit, yeah.
home, a unit,
Yeah.
and they insure their contents and their own home insurance. But what we're talking about, there's a difference between a flood, say, of their washroom, shower, laundry, whatever, and it only affects, say, their downstairs got flooded and it didn't affect anything else but their own. So their own coverage will cover that. But if that water then leaks into the common areas of other units or other common strata portions, then that's where the strata portion would come in. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. So I hope everyone understood that.
Yeah.
um, yeah, because people don't realize. Well, I had an example the other day when they said, well, I had a leak in my shower and that didn't come up. Well, that's because it didn't affect the strata. That's
Right.
why. Okay, so any tips and tricks that you think that people, other than knowing if they're a broker, like getting 3 quotes without having to shop around yourself, is there any tips and tricks that might be able to give them a better
Yeah.
premium?
I well, okay. So I would say the very first tip is ask your broker if they have any recommendations to your policy. Know that way you know what your limits of coverage are, and if there's a shortfall on anything, then your broker will be able to point that out to you. It could be something as simple as, like, you might not realize that you had earthquake coverage, or you didn't have earthquake coverage, or you didn't have sewer backup coverage. So that would be one tip for sure. Uh, tips on tips to save money. Well, a lot of insurance companies lately have been um, giving discounted rates for credit, having good credit. If and this just doesn't go to homeowners. Good credit discounts has also been applied to certain insurance companies. Have been applying them to their clients that are businesses. So if the owner of a business has good credit, their business insurance policy might be discounted as well. So asking about credit discount is one aspect. Some other things too that you might want to say, well, I've been with you a long time. Is there any loyalty discounts? Sometimes loyalty discounts can be overlooked. Um, there's different claims-free discounts that can be applied. A claims-free discount is typically applied at 3 years, but certain companies will give increased discounted rates all the way up to 10 years. If you can show that you're 10 years claims free, you could be you may be entitled to a larger discount than what you're currently getting.
And I guess you had mentioned to make sure you keep your broker up to date throughout the year if you have any changes. You had spoken about a guy who did some major renovations. And
Yeah, it's always important to let your broker know if you're doing any renovations. One, so that they can update your policy. But it was interesting. That particular client, their premium actually went down even after we increased their coverage, just because of all the maintenance work that he did. He updated his roof, he updated his plumbing, he updated his hot water tank. All this, when applied to his policy, actually reduced his premium. So keeping your broker up to date can save you money just for doing the simple maintenance stuff that your home requires.
you don't even think that,
No.
throughout the year, unless of course, if you put in a suite or you changed like something huge, but
Yeah.
you don't think you should mention that to your broker. And that's a really good tip.
Yeah.
Um, as well as you were talking about business insurance and how people could save money on
Right.
re-looking at their business insurance.
Yeah. A lot of times, what happens with businesses is, sometimes it just gets automatically renewed. It's important to review your business policy with your broker. Um, a lot of businesses are rated on their gross receipts, especially lately with the economy the way it is. You may not realize this, but if your business had a reduction in sales, and you're being rated on your sales from previously when the times were good, you might be overpaying on your insurance policy. I also mentioned that some insurance companies are applying credit consent discounts for owners and presidents of companies that have good credit rating. That's one way too that you might end up saving. Just this week, I insured a business where we didn't even they sold a location and they didn't let me know. And upon updating their policy, their insurance company gave them a credit consent discount, and also gave them and we removed the location that they sold. And they ended up saving over $1,500 about on their insurance renewal. So that was super. That was good. That was good for the company.
That's a great tip, because COVID, of course, this crazy pandemic that we're all in, businesses really need to know where they can save money. So
Yeah.
that's awesome tips.
Yeah, if you're a restaurant and you just had a loss in sales this year, call your broker today and just say, hey, um, our gross receipts are down.
Or half or
Yeah,
whatever.
our half. Yeah, can we adjust the premium a little bit here? Um, that's definitely a way to get some savings.
Okay. And
I was going to mention. Sorry, go ahead.
what else were you gonna talk about?
Well, I was also going to say too, had quite a bit of success when um, with one company where we looked at their auto insurances, and instead of having their automobiles insured at separate times throughout the year, we added them to a fleet. And there's a lot of good strategies for having your company on a fleet insurance. Um, but one is cost. The discounts on fleets can be quite substantial. For this particular company, I saved them roughly $7,000 a year on their policies.
Well, that's crazy. So anybody listening should get on that bandwagon right now. And
Or at least have it looked at. You
yeah,
know, at least have it looked at.
so look at fleet instead of, because it doesn't matter who, well, that's for here. It might be different somewhere else, but what they look at is who's driving your vehicle, right?
Yeah. So with a fleet, it just puts all the vehicles under. It's not necessarily one policy, but they all come up at one specific time. So it but there's several advantages to doing that. Um, One is, of course, the discounted rates for fleets can be substantially higher than individual insurances. The other thing is with fleets, a big strategy for it is you don't have to list the drivers. With the new changes that came out with ICBC, now, of course, all employees and members of the household need to be listed, and that's one aspect on a fleet currently that you do not have to do. Um, so if you have a bunch of employees that maybe don't have the greatest driving record, or maybe they're new drivers, looking at a fleet could be a very good option for you. If you have high turnover, um, being on a fleet would be a great option for you too, because um, if you forget to update your driver list and you just hired John last week and John gets into an accident, well, you might avoided your coverage, right? And one other significant advantage to being on a fleet as opposed to insuring your vehicles individually is you don't have to list the location where they're parked at night. So if you have vehicles that maybe are parked at at the employee's house one night and then in the yard another night, or wherever, um, you could be in breach of your insurance. But this way, you don't have to actually disclose where the vehicles are parked at night, which can be advantageous as well.
That's very helpful. Um, how would any policy changes in home insurance for flooding? I think there's been quite a bit of difference for insurances for this aspect now.
With flooding,
With
sure.
all our flooding and wildfires that we're having, I'm sure it's
Well,
impacted our insurance.
yeah. There's been lots of impacts to insurance on with in BC with respect to water damages. There's water damage where flooding can mean a bunch of different things, but in insurance, it specifically means uh, water damage from overland, caused by a body of water. So insurance companies, you want to make sure that you have coverage for that. That is an optional coverage. It's not under the standard policy. You'd want to make sure that you have the correct amount of coverage. I saw certain policies where limits are put in place for overland water. So you'd want to make sure you're looking at that. I would recommend at least policy limit. That's a nice one to have, because then it's what your policy is covered for. But some limits can be quite low. Like one policy I was looking at today, the overland water coverage for a flood, it was covered up to a maximum of $5,000, which isn't very much. I'm sure a flood can do a lot more than $5,000. So you want to make sure that you know what your limit is with that.
We seem to be seeing that more and more too.
Yeah, and there,
Any area of the country.
we're seeing a lot more of that. And another tip too would be to take a look and see if you can get groundwater coverage. That's where damage has occurred under ground level. So where flooding causes the damage above ground level, pooling water can saturate the ground and then seep in through the foundation. Um, it's a very rare coverage, but there are the odd insurance companies that are providing that. So that's something to look into, especially if you're in an area where after a heavy rainstorm, water seems to pool and saturate the ground.
And I think if you're by a creek or near a lake or
Any of
a
those,
river or
yeah,
anything like that, so people understand there's that coverage as well as
it's
something
optional.
that's
Yeah.
slow going and coming through your cement foundation, and it's not usually, I don't think it's usually a quick kind of thing. It just slowly seeps
Oh,
in.
and like I said, it's rarely covered. It's there's just a handful of companies that will actually offer that type of coverage. So um,
Something to look for when
it's
you're
something to look for and there's usually an increased cost for that. So it's all,
what you want,
that's what you want. Yeah. But if that is a concern for you, there are companies that are offering that type of coverage. Yeah.
as well as earthquake. Has that extra additional gone up as well?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of raises in prices for earthquake coverage. A lot of people don't realize this, but in BC we get an earthquake a day. Every day we get earthquakes. We just don't feel them or recognize that they've occurred. But um, a geologist will be able to tell you that they're happening every day. Um,
They're prevalent. And I'm sure all the whole Pacific Northwest coast is the exact same, correct?
yeah, yeah.
So,
There's a fault line that goes, I think, from San Diego down to off the coast of San Diego down to all the way to north to Vancouver Island, past there, or Queen Charlotte's or something like that.
and Alaska goes in.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely, we're on a fault line for sure, and there is going to be an earthquake, whether it's our lifetime, like a major earthquake that's going to cause a great amount of damage, and whether it's our lifetime or not, you're going to want to have that discussion if that's a coverage that I personally have it, but I would say half of my clients don't.
Okay. But so definitely something to consider.
For sure. You definitely want to get a quote on it and just make that decision.
Right. So what you're saying is know your policy and understand it and get quotes and not just take one quote, but multiple quotes and be prepared with your answers to help the broker out to what it is that the house has. Has it
Mhm.
got a new roof? What kind of roof is it? All of that kind of stuff. And we'll be including the worksheet in our blueprint program as well. Is there anything about uh, let's see, what were we talk about restrictions, hot water tanks, and all of that kind of stuff to know what's excluded and any restrictions on your current policy and any updates that you need to do on it,
Yeah, you should review your policy wordings and make sure you know what your exclusions are,
or have that discussion.
or at least have that discussion. Um, yeah, for sure. You need to know that. Your broker should be able to outline where that is in your policy wordings.
What kind of changes in a person's household? Because right now during COVID, we can see the difference of some savings for business insurance. But what about house insurance? Is there any, people don't realize maybe they should insure for an extra suite that they might get in to have an extra income during COVID, or that they,
Yeah, if you have an extra suite, you definitely want to let your broker know about that. Could be, yeah, there can be all kinds of issues if they do not know. It's usually a little bit of an extra cost, but it's not a substantial amount. even just having a second kitchen, if you have another suite but you're not renting it out and you just have a second kitchen, you should update your insurance policy and let them know that you have two kitchens in your home. There might be it can make all the difference if there was like say a fire claim or something.
Okay.
Especially if you have a tenant and your tenant leaves a pot on the stove. The difference between having a claim insured and a claim denied is whether you let your broker know that you had a suite.
Right. And so know your limitations and restrictions on your policy, as well as understand what your deductions are,
Your deductibles.
your deductibles.
Yeah, your deductibles for sure. You want to be familiar with your deductibles. Absolutely. A lot of people don't realize, but a deductible for earthquake coverage can be quite substantial. It'll typically say 5%, 10%, or 8%. But when you actually do the math, it can be quite a lot on your 10% on, say, a home that's insured for $580,000. Well, that's a $58,000 deductible just for the home part, right? And then you got your property and other stuff. So knowing your deductibles is definitely important and maybe a factor on your coverage. On a policy I just quoted, come to think of it, there could be some nice savings too. A policy I just quoted, their policy had $1,000 deductible, and I quoted by increasing their deductible to $2,500, it would be a $500 savings per year. Well, at least for this year, it could even be more next. 3 years of claims free, and you've made up that $1,500 difference in the deductible. So if that's something that you can afford, and a $2,500 deductible isn't going to break your bank, maybe that extra savings on your policy can be worthwhile. So looking at different deductible options is always good to at least get a quote and make that knowledgeable decision for yourself.
Right. Sorry, I had to cough. What would you suggest for car insurance for savings? Is there any, other than having a fleet for a business, is there any other savings for cars?
Right. Well, you want to make sure that you have the drivers listed. And you may find out that certain drivers listed on your policy might bring up the cost. But of course, you want to make sure that you list the correct drivers. I know in our household, for my Jeep, I have myself listed and my wife, but our 20-year-old stepson, he's only listed on her vehicle, just because it costs the vehicle pricing is an extra $100 a month to have him listed on it. So as long as everyone's aware, he can't drive the Jeep, but he can drive the other vehicle, then we're all good. So that's one way to save money. It sounds like
Yeah.
but you can look at your deductibles as well, just like with your home. There are different deductible options. I almost always recommend clients go with, instead of a 300 deductible for comprehensive, to look at least what the cost is, or for collision. At least look at the cost of increasing that deductible to say 500 for collision. A lot of times it's an extra $100 savings for the year. And collision, you're only going to pay if you're at fault or 50% at fault. So you might, that could be an option for you. I'm not a strong proponent of looking at different optional coverages for your excess coverage, but that is an option too, where you might save money. You just want to make sure that you're getting a decent policy with that, and
Understand it.
Yeah.
Because I guess the only tip and trick that I can tell everyone is when you're doing your house insurance, car insurance, or even any other insurance for that matter, to always consider that. Don't think that it's never going to happen to you,
Mm,
because that's not a good way of looking at it, because then it will happen to you.
yeah.
So be proactive and understand your policy, understand the exclusions, understand the restrictions, understand your deductibles, and have a plan, a policy that you can feel comfortable with.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. If you have a concern of a specific um,
Yep.
thing, yeah, like, like maybe you saw a raccoon in your backyard. Like, do I have coverage if that raccoon causes damage? It's always good to know. Um, it's always good to know, and then you can take other steps to maybe to risk mitigate. If you have a tenant, do I have coverage for this tenant that's staying here? And then that way, if a claim does occur, be proactive with your broker, but also have a broker that's proactive as well.
And if you do get, say, a home alarm put in, to inform your broker that, there might be a small
For
discount.
sure. Any material changes to your home, um, you should let your broker know, and that would include having an alarm, because um, most insurance companies give a discount for that.
So the only thing that I can think of at the moment, to ask is to remember that your assets are your vehicles, are your boats, are your ATVs or any of that stuff, as well as your property. And to know that if you don't have two people, say, on a vehicle, that it could be an issue in asset separation. So if there's a death, it can create an issue, of trying to get that car put into the other person's name. So be proactive in looking at what suits your situation as well.
Right. So yeah, a good strategy of for, I guess, in the event of a death for estates, is if you don't want a particular piece of property to go into the estate and be a part of the estate, and you want it to go into a specific person, putting it in joint ownership is a great strategy for that. That way, upon a death, it would just transfer nicely into the other person's.
But also, discuss that with your lawyer or notary.
Yeah,
But to even just think about it, it's
estate
a good
estate
start.
planning should be discussed with a lawyer for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Very
no,
important to have a
that's
will in place. Yeah,
yeah, it's a good start, but to be able to think about that, it might affect you, and maybe have that discussion with a lawyer or a notary in your location.
for sure.
Did you have any exciting type of stories this past year for COVID,
Um,
other than people trying to save money?
um, yeah. any, any exciting stories? I mean, I was talking about that one business where I saved approximately $7,000 by switching them to a fleet. I mean, that was a highlight for me. It's always nice when you do something like that for a business. I'm finding that the credit the credit discount. I can't stress that enough. If you're Even if you don't have good credit, it doesn't count against you. If you have good credit, that's a great way to save on your policy. It's such a great way. Um, I've, I've seen discounts of up to $300 or more. Um,
That's really helpful
yeah,
when
and it actually got me thinking of another one too. Another way is, a lot of people don't realize this one. If you're a business owner, um, a lot of brokers will put your home insurance with, let's say, XYZ company, but your business is insured with ABC company. And most insurance companies give multi-policy discounts. So either your home can get a further discount or your business can get a further discount by just having both with the same company. I've been very successful with a lot of my clients by saving them money by putting both their location, both their assets in under one not one policy, but one with one
Insurance company.
with one insurance company, and that multi-policy discount is overlooked a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of business owners are right now thinking, oh yeah, no, actually I'm insured there and my home is insured over there. Not necessarily a good, I mean, it's fine, but you might be missing out on some discounts that you might not have realized by doing that.
No, that's awesome. That's another reason to have a good broker.
Yeah. Thanks.
No, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Derek, for taking the time and helping our listeners understand,
For sure.
what they have, what they don't have, and things to consider. And we'll definitely have you back on again, and
Absolutely. Would
we could probably talk all afternoon about stuff, right?
and insurance, it's such exciting stuff.
I know. I said that to someone the other day. I said I wrote a blog this week on life
Hopefully people
insurance.
aren't asleep.
Yeah. And I said sometimes it's just really tough to make it exciting. It's kind of nerdy stuff, I guess, or I'm not sure what the title of insurance is, but a little bit boring, I think, for most people. But I just want to stress to people that to understand what they have, and to deal with people that they might not realize that they're only getting one quote from and they should be getting multiple, to understand some. And it's hard to show people three different quotes sometimes, because insurance companies don't always, you can't always compare apples to apples. Some might have certain exclusions and some don't, but at least you're given the options of looking at what that insurance company offers.
For sure.
So thank you, Derek, for coming out today. I don't think it was too painful. And I just want to thank you so much for taking the time and talking to our listeners about house insurance and business insurance and saving money during COVID. It's a very difficult time for people right now, because we really don't know how things are going to change. I think that's the whole fear of everything is, are we moving forward or are we stepping backwards a bit? So things keep changing in this 2020. So thank you again, Derek, for coming out.
Thanks for having me, Tina.
You're very welcome. So everyone, for our listeners, I hope I've inspired and motivated you guys to look at your own situation and your own plans that you have, because we do, with your Backup Plan app, we help you create your own unique plan. So take a moment and share this video with those that you love and care about, because I'm sure there might be some savings, there might be some better understanding for those that not just for yourself, but your friends and family too. So our website is yourbackupplan.ca. We have weekly podcasts on 8 different platforms, and we are on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, because family matters, and that's what we're here to help. And everyone stay safe for the rest of 2020. Thanks so much. Bye.